The worst case I've ever seen. Judge gives 3 life sentences to man who killed child, girlfriend. I am not sorry for something that I did not do, and I am not sorry for the things that I did at the time that you were not present. I do comprehend, ma'am. Thank you. I want to thank you, everyone. I am sad to hear about your loss, but I will say that, for the past 19 years that I have been working here, I have witnessed the death of human beings at the hands of other people in every conceivable manner. Horrible things have happened to me, including shootings, stabbings, drownings, suffocations, being blown apart by autos, and cases of DUI manslaughter. I have witnessed all of these things. To the best of my knowledge, this is the most unfortunate example I have ever witnessed. I would like to reiterate that I was present with a member of the fire department during his testimony, and when he stated that he was the one who collected the body of Renibia. As a result of the jury's decision to sentence the perpetrator to life in prison, the family members of a mother and daughter who were brutally killed in 2018 were present in the courtroom when a judge handed down 3 consecutive life sentences. A term of life in prison without the chance of parole was agreed upon by the jury for Ronnie O'Neal, who was found guilty of murdering his girlfriend and their daughter, who was 9 years old, as well as attempting to kill his son, who was 8 years old, at their house in Riverview. The punishment was handed down approximately 1 month ago. He was accused of murder, and his son testified against him throughout the trial. An emotional statement was made by the victim's family before to the sentencing that was scheduled to take place by Judge Michelle Cisco. According to Carrie Lloyd, Kenyatta Barron's mother, O'Neal abducted angels from the family, including his daughter, Ron Nevea, who had severe difficulties and was unable to communicate verbally during her childhood. Lloyd stated that she was dissatisfied with the result that the jury had reached and that she desired for O'Neal to be sentenced to death. In addition, she stated that O'Neal made a mockery of the judicial system by defending himself in the trial for the double murder and screamed before the jury. Additionally, she stated that O'Neal blamed Barron for the murders on the defendant. A significant portion of Lloyd's testimony was spent in tears. After that, O'Neal, who was handcuffed and wearing a red inmate jumpsuit, stood up to make his statement. When he turned to look at Lloyd, he shifted his attention to the gallery and stated that he would not apologize for his actions. He started off quietly, saying, "I am not sorry for something I didn't do," and then he raised his voice to shout, "And I am not sorry for the things I did do." The judge reprimanded him for his tone and warned O'Neal that she would have him removed from the courtroom if he continued to rant. In the following sentence, he said, "But I will say that I am sorry for your loss." He then lowered his voice once again. Without having any knowledge of the actual circumstances, everyone is eager to point fingers and play the blame game. At the time when Judge Cisco was delivering his sentence, she ordered O'Neal to rise and face them. 19 years I've been at this job. I've seen human beings killed at the hands of others in every way imaginable, according to her. This is the worst case I've ever seen as far as the facts go. In his memory, Cisco recalled the statement of a firefighter who had carried the body of Ron Nevea, who was 9 years old, out of the house. When the person from the fire department testified and said he retrieved the body of Ron Nevea O'Neal from the home, and all he could do was sob. It took every ounce I had not to start sobbing too, because there's no way any person with any feeling could witnessed or seen the photos of what occurred that night and not be haunted for the rest of your life, according to the judge. I know I will be, for the rest of my life. I will be haunted by what I saw as far as the evidence, and just the abject cruelty of it all. Cisco devoted a significant portion of her concentration to uncovering the specifics behind Ron Nevea's passing. It was alleged by the prosecution that O'Neal murdered his daughter with a hatchet. The victim was born with difficulties and was unable to communicate verbally. She couldn't scream, she couldn't run away, she witnessed what you did to her mother. Cisco remarked to O'Neal straight in the courtroom. She couldn't run away, she couldn't say anything. She had already experienced a childhood in which she was born with problems, both in terms of her physical and mental limitations, and she was aware of the agony that the child had to endure. It is indescribable to think about the anguish and distress that she endured as a result of your actions that night. During the course of her description of the moment the young girl passed away, the judge seemed to become visibly distraught. That moment when you struck her with that hatchet for the first time, and little Ronnie testified that all he could see was tears coming out of his sister's face. At that moment, that child knew she was being betrayed in the cruelest, most tragic, and sorrowful way that a child could ever be betrayed. All Ronnie could see was tears. She was being betrayed by her parent, the one person who ought to be there to protect their children, love them, and keep them from harm. Cisco said, her voice tinged with wrath. She was being betrayed by her parent, and that was the last thing that child felt before she passed on from this earth was your utter, cruel betrayal to her. After that, she delivered down her sentence, which consisted of 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of release for the 2 murder counts and the 1 attempted murder charge. She then handed down a sentence of 30 years for the crime of arson, as well as 30 years for each of the 2 accusations of aggravated child abuse, for a total of 90 years in addition to the life sentences received by O'Neill. A motion that was submitted on O'Neill's behalf, demanding a new trial, was denied by the judge before the judge made a decision regarding whether or not to adopt the recommended sentence that was imposed by the jury. The ability to testify in court was allegedly denied to O'Neill, according to his claim. It was the defense counsel who was assigned to O'Neill for the penalty phase of his trial who was responsible for drafting the motion. During his trial, O'Neill acted as his own attorney and represented himself in court. He occasionally yelled at the jurors as he developed a defense plan to counteract the upsetting facts and testimony of witnesses. During the closing statements, a public lawyer who had been appointed to participate in the case requested the jury to spare O'Neill and instead sentence him to life in prison. A psychological expert testified during the sentencing phase that O'Neill was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, as well as delusional disorder. Just a few months prior to the killings, O'Neill's mother spoke to the jury about a random drive-by shooting that came dangerously close to taking her son's life. However, she chose to conceal her name throughout the testimony. It is true that at least one juror did not vote in favor of the death penalty. On the other hand, in the state of Florida, jurors are required to reach a unanimous verdict in order to recommend the death penalty. Did you like it? Tell us what you think of the video in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.